So it's been about a week and a half since ICLR launched its R&D lab, ICLR&D, and I thought it'd be useful to provide a bit of an update on where we've got to over the last week and a half, and tell you a little bit more about the projects that we're working on. So the day we launched with 4 projects. They're interrelated. They all ultimately focus on primary law, so case law and statutes in various ways. And the first of the 4 is Blackstone, which is essentially a natural language processing project where what we're attempting to do is to use ICLR's archive of data, which in effect consists of just over 150 years worth of case law, and to use that to train a statistical model that other people can use for free on an open source basis to understand more about unstructured legal text that they have in their possession. So we're thinking potentially about academic researchers or journalists or developers of other legal information products who have large quantities of unstructured raw text that is legal in nature, so maybe cases or skeleton arguments or journal articles or whatever. And the model can be used by them to rapidly identify bits and pieces in that text related to legal writing. So things like case names and citations, references to statutes, references to provisions in statutes, references to secondary legislation, through to kind of weirder bits and pieces like identifying instances in which a judge appears to be making a decision, or identifying instances in which, in giving a judgment, the judge is identifying one of the issues that needs to be decided upon. So ratio detection and issue detection. The other is identifying instances in which the author of a legal text is postulating some axioms. Instances in which the author may say it is a well-established principle of English law that such and such and such. But there isn't really anything new about any of that. That's all going on at the moment. The thing is that it's all happening kind of in the commercial space. There isn't anything over here in the UK that's open. And what we want to do is, in effect, replicate what's happening in the commercial space and put it out there for free for other people to use and to extend. So that's Blackstone. The second project that we launched with is called Friction, and it's related to Blackstone in the sense that Blackstone is dependent entirely on the data that ICLR holds. ICLR is lucky in this respect because it's been going for over a century and a half and it's got lots of data. But to build things like predictive models, you need data to train on and experiment with. But in the UK, access to raw primary law material is quite difficult, particularly where case law is concerned. And Friction is a research project directed towards trying to map what the current state of play is with the dissemination of judgments in particular in the English and Welsh jurisdiction, because it's a bit of a mess and no single person really seems to know exactly what's going on, and the status quo has 2 big problems, or creates 2 big problems. The first problem is that it's currently impossible for a person without a expensive subscription to a legal research information service to really access even a fraction of the case law that's operative in our legal system. So that engages some considerations about the rule of law and how well the existing apparatus is equipped to provide access to normal people to the law of the land. The second problem, which in my view is far less important than the first, is that the lack of open access to case law data is slowing down the development of, or the innovation on legal information in this country, because developers can't get their hands on the data. So friction is aimed at trying to kind of comprehensively and with a degree of authority map out what the current situation is, so that the people in a position to fix it, namely the Ministry of Justice and HMCTS, are left in no doubt kind of how the current situation works. The third project we launched is a legal design project called Raconteur, and this bounces off friction in a way. Friction's all about availability and dissemination of the raw material that makes up the English legal system, so statutes and case law. Raconteur kind of picks up on that by saying, well, by asking, well, even if you make all this material available for free, the fact of the matter is that most people out there who haven't been trained to read this stuff are going to have a hard time understanding what a lot of it means, or even working out if they're looking at the right thing, or being able to identify whether or not the thing they're looking at is still good. Is it still good law? So Raconteur it builds upon a lot of research that's already been done elsewhere in different contexts, and asks, can design be used to build additional layers of abstraction on top of the raw material, on top of the raw judgment, the raw statute, to more effectively convey the significance and meaning of that particular piece of material to people who haven't been trained to read the raw material itself. So that's Raconteur, and the fourth is a conceptual project called Endless Blue, which is a little bit harder to explain, but Endless Blue rests on the idea that you can think of a common law system as a system of information and transactions and evolutions on that data. And Endless Blue seeks to try to project systems thinking onto English law. So understanding what are the core objects within our legal system, and understanding how they interrelate with each other. And that in turn can then be used to support some of the work we're doing on the NLP project, Blackstone, but also with a view to potentially guiding the development of a better publicly accessible legal information system that would either be provided by the government or by the third sector, or in some way, shape or form the private sector. So they're the four projects we launched with. One of the kind of core values of the lab, or at least one of its assumptions, is that it's unlikely that ICLR will be able to do really any of this all on its own. It's far better to work with others and to be collaborative. So when we launched, we were very keen to make clear that we wanted to work with other people, and we have launched a joint project with a small social enterprise, a small startup called Just Access, who are potentially on the brink of doing something quite disruptive and positive in the legal information dissemination space, particularly where judgments are concerned. Just Access is the brainchild and company of a barrister, Sophie Walker, who practices at One Pump Court, and Sophie, along with her team, are incredibly capable and really enthusiastic, and they really know what they're doing. And it's, from someone who's worked in the legal information industry for the better part of 10 years, it's really encouraging to see a practitioner, and someone who's actually practicing at the bar, take the time to realise how important some of this stuff is, even though they have access to all the stuff normal people don't, like Westlaw and Lexis and things, and want to do something about it. So the lab has got behind Sophie and her team at Just Access. We had our first session with each other on Wednesday. That was fantastic, where we were trying to map out what actually goes on with judgments. So when a judge sits down and prepares to write a judgment that's going to be handed down in the High Court, what's happening there, and then what happens next, and where does it go? And similarly, where a judge gets to the conclusion of argument in a case and then moves straight on to giving judgment extempore. Complex, and we're becoming kind of acutely aware of what we don't know, but we've got cracking with it, and it's looking really good. There probably would have been more up on our site about what's been going on for the last week, were it not for the fact that my son completely totals my laptop, which wasn't his fault. It just turns out that MacBooks don't like apple juice, which is ironic, but getting that sorted, and I should be speeding up on my work as soon as I've got that back. But stay tuned for more, and if you're looking at this and you're interested in getting involved with any of the projects, or you have an idea of your own, I'd really like to hear from you. You can find us on Twitter at ICLR&D, or you can visit our site at research.iclr.co.uk. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.